Donald Trump's behavior just today alone led to a 600-point drop in the Dow. And his behavior was, of course, displayed on Twitter, where he had a meltdown over Jerome Powell refusing to do everything and anything that Trump wants him to do. So Powell gave a speech about what to expect in the future when it comes to interest rates. And here's what he said. While monetary policy is a powerful tool that works to support consumer spending, business investment, and public confidence, it cannot provide a settled rule book for international trade. So he's taking a little jab there at Trump's trade policies, and he continues to say, our challenge now is to do what monetary policy can do to sustain the expansion to achieve the Fed's goal of low unemployment and stable inflation. Trade policy uncertainty seems to be playing a role in the global slowdown and in weak manufacturing and capital spending in the United States. There were no recent precedents to guide any policy response to the current situation. So he did say that it is likely that if the economy goes the way that it's going, which is bad, very, very bad, he will likely lower the interest rates further. However, he did make a point to say that there's only so much the Fed can do to counteract the failed economic policies coming from Donald Trump, namely his nonsensical trade war with China. So Trump lost it over the speech, and I'm gonna give you Trump's comments via Twitter in just a second, but do you guys wanna jump in?
Yeah, I wanna explain the full context here, because I watched the market all day today, and I can tell you exactly what caused which events. So, because based on the timing, obviously. So I want you to be clear, Powell actually said he's gonna cut rates. And so the market immediately responded favorably to that. So in the morning, the market was down a little over 100 points because China said they were gonna retaliate on tariffs. But everybody's nervously waiting for what the Fed chairman is gonna say, because everybody knows it's coming. If you don't know business, everybody waits on the Fed chair to speak. They've been waiting for weeks. They know he's gonna say whether he's gonna cut rates or not today. So he comes out and he said many favorable things about cutting rates. He said low inflation seems to be the problem of this year and not high inflation, which means, hey, I'm not worried about inflation, I'm gonna cut rates. And this is business talk for that. And he said the Fed was cutting, not raising rates in the months prior to the end of the last expansions. So he's saying even if we're at the end of the expansion, and we're still expanding, I'm still likely to cut rates. So not even if we're in a recession, but even if we're going well, I wanna cut rates to make the next recession worse if it does happen. So that's good sign number two. And then flat out, the one that Anna read you is indisputable. Our challenge now is to do what monetary policy can do to sustain the expansion. So the markets then respond very positively, and about 150-point decline, and I think at its nadir, bounces back up, and now the market's up by 50 points. So Powell did his job. He wanted to assure the markets, and I'm gonna cut the interest rates. I'm not sure I even agree with cutting the interest rates, but he did what Trump asked him to do. He said that stuff about trade as an aside, partly to deflect blame. He's like, right. Trump keeps attacking me, but look, really what's hurting the markets and the economy is the fact that you're doing a trade war. And that's just true. So then what does Trump do? Not only did he attack Powell in the ways that Anna's gonna explain, but he then threatened a bigger trade war against China.
Yep.
Boom, 700-point turnaround. Market crashes, ends down minus 623. Had nothing to do with Powell. Powell did the right thing. Markets were happy, and Trump came in as usual like a meteor and just pulverized any of the gains that were happening, turned it into disastrous losses.
So Trump went on the warpath on Twitter. I mean, there's so many tweets, but here's what he initially said in response to Jerome Powell's speech. As usual, the Fed did nothing. It is incredible that they can speak without knowing or asking what I am doing, which will be announced shortly. We have a very strong dollar and a very weak Fed. I will work brilliantly. I don't know why brilliantly is in quotation marks, but I will work brilliantly with both, and the US will do great. My only question is, who's our bigger enemy, Jay Powell or Chairman Xi? And then he continues to say, our country has lost stupidly trillions of dollars with China over many years. They have stolen our intellectual property at a rate of hundreds of billions of dollars a year, and they want to continue. I won't let that happen. We don't need China and blah, blah, blah. He keeps going. But I want to, by the way, correct something, because this is something that's been, I think, widely accepted. But when you look at our trade negotiations with China dating back decades ago, they actually did not steal our intellectual property. I know that that's the common narrative that you hear, but these very trade deals indicated, yo, you hook us up with cheap labor, then go ahead. There is no stealing our intellectual property. You have access to it.
They do it sometimes with movies.
And Richard Wolff, by the way, did a great job in explaining this. This is how the trade deals happened. There was no notion of stealing intellectual property because that was the trade-off from the very beginning. You give us the cheap labor, you have access to our intellectual property, period.
I like how hundreds of billions was capitalized, like he was in third grade. I personally, I have a couple of things to say about this. First of all, you can tell the tweets that Trump writes and then the ones that other people write because of the punctuation. Like he knows nothing about a comma, and a semicolon is way out of his range. But I think it's interesting to watch a country like I remember you having one of those moments on this when we talked about how America is the greatest country in the world and we're so this and we're so that, but we outsource so much stuff and we depend on so many other countries. And it appears to me, I'm no expert in any of this stuff, but from the viewpoint of a constituent, a consumer, a United States citizen, it feels like he is set out to sabotage so many relationships, right, throughout the world, that it is just showing us how vulnerable we are because so many of the things that we think, we call ourselves being great, but we rely so much on other countries, and he is doing such a great job at exposing all of that stuff, right? Yeah. And the other thing that's fun as a hip hop fan is to watch old white men have beef. You know, like that is just something. They are like, they look like hip hop in the 90s. Like he is really in a beef war with every time Donald Trump says somebody is an enemy, I always feel like he is trying to get that person hurt.
I mean, he knows the type of followers and fans he has, and he knows the types of threats that they put out there, so I wouldn't be surprised. But I want to skip ahead to graphic 10 because within 5 minutes of those tweets, the Dow had already plunged 223 points, then dropped another 150 points 5 minutes after that. So
overall, it lost 700 points.
Overall, yes, but I'm just trying to make a point
after
about
the tweet. Like I wish we showed you the chart. So you see it go down in the beginning, go up after Powell speaks, and then plummet after Trump's tweets. So it's no dispute whatsoever about it. Look, I want to make a couple of comments about the tweets because they're both, disastrous and funny at the same time. This guy, he pretends that he went to an Ivy League school. Really, that's why he hides his transcripts. He's like, no, under penalty of law, you're not allowed to show my transcripts. He threatens to sue everybody because he's a moron. Of course, he didn't actually attend any of those classes. Anyway, to the relevant stuff, he says, the Fed did nothing today. No, you idiot. The Fed said it was going to lower interest rates. And if you care about the market being like your ratings, it was working until you blundered in like an idiot and ruined it. They didn't do nothing. They did actually, in essence, what you wanted them to do. And so then he says that, well, why don't they speak to me first? They're supposed to be not related to politics. They're not supposed to go and ask the president, hey, what should I do? They're supposed to be removed from politics, but you're too stupid to even realize that. You're not supposed to say, come talk to me about how we're gonna do political advantages for me.
Right, I mean, Trump thinks he's king, right? Not only king of the Israelis, but king of the United States.
Yeah, he does.
Because he has absolutely no respect for institutions that are supposed to be completely independent. Now, I think that there are fair criticisms of the Federal Reserve, but we're not talking about that. We're simply talking about the nature of the Federal Reserve remaining independent from the executive branch. He doesn't want that. He wants Jerome Powell to answer to him. Yeah. And what frustrates me over and over again in various contexts, and now in this case in the context of the Federal Reserve, is that you have these spineless men who cower to him and give him everything he wants.
But look, this is the thing, that I have to speak because of what you just said right now. The people who really hate the progressive agenda and always supporting him, that are very anti-socialism, he's skipping past socialism straight to dictatorship. Because in one of those tweets, he talked about the companies and he says they're being ordered. The language is ordered. Who is he to order any company on what they're supposed to be doing with their private business? businesses.
He thinks he's a king, period.
Yeah, in fact, I want to read that to you. Before I do that, one last one about the first of the tweets. He's like, I work brilliantly.
I
with both.
was going to tell you to do it with the, because she said, what are the quotations?
Brilliant. I work brilliantly. Like,
Yeah, that means you work like an idiot.
at least he knows.
Why'd you put it in
At
quotes?
least he knows.
Right. Anyway, but he thinks he's saying I work brilliantly with the Fed, and then he goes on to call the head of the Fed the enemy. Is that your idea of working brilliantly with them? And you just said earlier in the tweet that they won't even talk to you. Just his supporters are so incredibly unintelligent that they miss all this. They're like, oh yeah, that's it. Oh, I can't believe the Fed won't talk to him. That's why he works so brilliantly with them.
They're not affected by the stock market.
And they're also not affected by logic.
But I mean, many of them are affected by this trade war, right? Which is really having this impact on the economy. And what's amazing to me is while some of the truckers we talked about earlier this week and some of the farmers we've talked about earlier on the show are feeling the pain and they're finally like changing their opinion on Trump, there are still people in those industries who are like, no, he's fighting for us. He's really taking it to China. He's really showing them who's boss.
And pick your own strawberries. Go get the people that belong to you who think that we're coming to take your jobs and go tell them to pick the strawberries. Because those signs went from farmers for Trump to please help.
Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Guys, look, his last poll, he's at 36%. Ain't nobody 14 months before an election at 36% that pulls that kind of comeback. And it's certainly not Donald Trump. Last thing. So the reason that things crashed is not because he insulted the head of the Federal Reserve. That's not relevant economically. It crashed because he threatened hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs against China, thereby making the trade war worse, thereby lowering manufacturing and creating a ripple effect throughout the economy that's potentially disastrous. That's why all those companies lost value, because everybody's gonna do less business and the economy might crash. But even in the midst of that, I agree with Ida that my favorite part of that tweet that crashed the economy was this last line. Our great American companies are hereby ordered to immediately start looking for an alternative to China, including bringing your companies home and blah, blah, blah. What do you mean they're hereby ordered?
Is he talking about?
What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. The president does not hereby order things. In this country, you have to pass a law that goes through Congress, and then you either sign it or don't sign it as president. He literally thinks he's king of Israel, right?
Right.
The second coming.
And is he talking about Ivanka?
Trump, King Trump hereby orders. He put it in the tweet. What does that mean? Do companies now have to follow Trump's order? And what is it?
Well,
is it written anywhere?
He gets treated like a king. I mean, the Republicans don't hold him accountable. Democrats are weak and they don't hold him accountable. So he gets to do what he wants.
And even if any of that was true, a president ordering private companies to do something would be the height of socialism. That you guys claim you're in favor of the free market. The government telling private companies what to do, I hereby order them. If Bernie Sanders did it, they'd be like, oh my God, it's a takeover. It's a takeover by the government of the companies. The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.